What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined always by my man in the corner, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, not the best day in terms of injury news, especially for those looking for answers at wide receiver. Meanwhile, we're diving into bold predictions for week 8 because it is going to be a big game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New York Giants. And quite frankly, I think it's going to be an absolute blowout. And don't worry, that is not one of my bold predictions. It's Thursday, so we're diving into week 8. What's more likely? And as we do every day, we'll end the show, finish this thing off, answering all of your questions. So toss them in the chat throughout the live stream. Nick, it's a good one. It's a crisp fall. Like, it is perfect fall out there this week. That's how perfect it is, if we're going to be honest. How you feel, my friend?
I was feeling great until, the wide receiver news that we heard about 25 minutes ago, literally minutes ago. So that kind of put a damper on the day. But at the same time, just a little sore. Felt good yesterday. I went down to the National Mall down here, right in the shadow of the monument, and played some kickball, which I now know that it has been far too long since I've actually ran it for any extended period of time, because I am completely and utterly sore all day today. So it felt great. Felt like I actually did something. And then, I mentioned, that wide receiver news came down, and I'm a little upset. That's all I can say.
It happens. I was wondering why, because I saw your Instagram post of the memorial. And I was like, just, a little night stroll around Washington, D.C. That sounds like a good time. Kickball sounds like a better time. I'd probably blow out a knee, but I'm glad that you got the exercise. Feeling it.
Scored the winning run in the bottom of the ninth. So always good. I mean, that's all I can do is run. So
would expect nothing less. Expect nothing less from our boy Nick Belsky. Let's dive into some Pittsburgh Steelers news. Roman Wilson is on the wrong end of an injury report yet again. He was a non-participant today with a hamstring injury that he suffered at the end of last week, held him out of week 7. Now, according to Steelers Now's Alan Saunders, it's a setback, and the Steelers are a little bit nervous about where they go from here with their third-round rookie. An injury in a rookie year that is plagued with injuries for Roman Wilson. The concern is high. I got to say, this likely means already that he is not going to play in week 8 against the Giants. And to be very honest, we're hitting the point now where Roman Wilson is missing so much time and is dealing with so many consistent injuries that I have a hard time believing he's ever going to involve himself in this offense before the end of the season. And more so than not, chances are he's looking at a reserve role once he does get in there, 5-6 offensive snaps a game. And that's probably it, because at no point is he been healthy enough to acclimate himself to the offense. And the fact that new injuries are coming about simply means that he is further behind than he was last Thursday or last Wednesday. And here we go. It's basically starting from ground zero. I look at Roman as a dude who I'm already counting out against the Giants, who I'm starting to think we're not going to get a good look at during his rookie season. And that brings up cause for concern, because this is a dude that you're going to go into the offseason, no matter what, looking at it and saying, we need a wide receiver. We need wide receiver help. At some point, you got to add somebody. Even if you add a Cooper Kupp or whoever before the trade deadline, you're still going to go into the offseason and think about what you can do next, who you can add next. And Roman Wilson's going to be part of that plan. Where does he fit? How big is his role in year 2? It's now essentially becoming a Calvin Austin. You're taking a guess next year what he's going to turn into and how big of a factor he could possibly be, which sets back his role in year 2. So on. So it's a snowball effect that is happening right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers and their third-round rookie. It's not good. I know you're upset. You just let us know how upset you are. I'll ask you your thoughts on this. How much trouble is Roman Wilson in now with the Steelers with another injury that is likely going to keep him out for a while?
Yeah, like you mentioned it perfectly. It puts him right back to ground zero. The unfortunate thing is he's going to have to earn his way onto the field, and he had earned his way onto the field a couple weeks ago. He got those 5 snaps, which all wide receiver fives have kind of gotten around that number of snaps, and you were hoping that, okay, from here on, just let him climb the depth chart because,
Yep.
I mean, fine in the 5 snaps, but again, how much can you really take from literally one handful snaps? But, he goes back to ground zero. The good thing is, though, he did have all those reps leading into that opportunity against the Raiders, so I don't think it's necessarily putting him back to where he was week 1 whenever Mike Tomlin said, "Listen, you missed your entire rookie training camp. We need to put you through a semi-rookie training camp through the first 5 weeks of the season before we even get that opportunity." I think that's behind him, but again, you can't suffer another one after this. Fortunately for him, the Steelers do go on a bye, so he can kind of heal up that hamstring, and you're hoping that once the bye is over and they're preparing for the Commanders, he can get onto the field in a full capacity and kind of start with that 5 snap reps in week 10, it would be, and just build from there. But again, the timetable is shorter. And as Mike Tomlin likes to say, the train gets faster and faster as the year goes on. It's going to be harder for him to jump onto it.
It is. It is. And Mike Tom, look, the Steelers could find themselves where they need wide receiver help. It's obvious that they need wide receiver help, but that's where they are right now. It's obvious that they need wide receiver help. It's obvious that you can't have Van Jefferson and Calvin Austin be your 2 and your 3 every single week. And I mean, although I'll hint at my bold predictions later in the show, one of them I expect to have a breakout game on Monday Night Football. You can't, it doesn't matter. We could all have our thoughts on the outside. It's about what's happening on the inside. And on the inside, Mike Tomlin is a guy who you have to earn your place to become part of something. And Roman Wilson does not have the opportunities right now to earn his place and become part of this offense. And it doesn't seem like he's going to. The further back you get, I mean, you're going to go week 8, no Roman Wilson. Then the bye week. Okay. The Steelers practice once with a Monday night game, maybe only once during the bye week. They'll come back for week 10, and then he has to take another one, but that's essentially a week off. It's been 2 weeks now without any Roman Wilson. If that's the case, and that's how this turns out to be, that's a massive step in the wrong direction. And Mike Tomlin's going to look at that and say that's 2 weeks that he has not been able to do anything to help himself and help his stock within this offense. It's a tough time where we sit here right now with Roman Wilson. And if we're going to be honest, I don't know. We'll talk wide receiver trades and everything, but I don't know what his future looks like with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, the one thing that I wanted to ask you, of course, about the wide receiver trade is if they execute one, whether it's Mike Williams, Cooper Kupp, whoever, if they bring in another receiver, does that spell the end of Roman Wilson for this season?
You'd have to believe chances are, right? Like you'd have to believe that if they brought in a Cooper Kupp, if they brought in Mike Williams is different. I don't know like that Mike Williams works out in Pittsburgh, but let's say he does. You have to look at it and say chances are that guy replaces Roman Wilson, and then the Steelers go from there, and they don't have a guy in Roman Wilson. They don't need a Roman Wilson because Van Jefferson's not getting benched. Calvin Austin's not getting benched. You're going to use Scotty Miller. I mean, he's your backup snap holder, so our placeholder. So you're going to need that guy. I feel like maybe it does strike the end of Roman Wilson and any of his chances playing his rookie season. Now, don't get me wrong, like that stinks because I have a lot of expectations for Roman Wilson once he does get on the field. But right now, where we stand, it's not the greatest outlook for Roman Wilson and what he's going to do for the Steelers. Again, we'll see what happens. But right now, bad day for Roman Wilson, bad day for those of you waiting for Roman Wilson to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, let's dive into some bold predictions. I guess we could talk wide receiver trade while we're sitting here and still on Roman Wilson and company. But I have gotten little word on Cooper Kupp today. But I will say I've seen a lot of action in Pittsburgh today, and I've seen a lot of people on the phone today that might indicate something, might indicate two things. Just kind of tells you people are working. Just kind of tells you, actions being made and things are going down, and that's what you want to see. The Cooper Kupp thing, let me ask you this because people will ask this question, and I figured we could ask it now. Do you think tonight's performance plays into this? If the Rams win, do you think that the chances for the Steelers lower? If Cooper Kupp plays out of his mind, do you think that the chances grow or lessen? If Puka Nacua goes off because he's playing tonight for the Rams, do you think the Rams are more vulnerable to trade Cooper Kupp. But do you think that tonight in any way impacts a possible trade for Cooper Kupp?
It definitely doesn't impact the Steelers' interest in Cooper Kupp because they're going to be interested regardless of what he goes out there and does, unless he goes out there and gets injured. Like that's the one thing that could substantially change what the Steelers and how the Steelers are viewing this. But I mean, if the Rams win and they win convincingly over a team that is 5-1 right now, maybe they do feel like, okay, now that we got our guys back, we might actually have a shot at this. So maybe we don't trade him. And the only other thing that I'll say is if he does go off, Cooper Kupp, I mean, then maybe that opens the door for some other team that wants a wide receiver that says, okay, you know what? We're more willing to get into this. So from the Steelers standpoint, I feel like they're in unless there's an injury, but a win for the Rams convincingly, I feel like gives the Rams potentially an opportunity to say, you know what? We're going to hold our cards with Cooper Kupp for the time being.
Yeah, it looks like John Rye here. He, you know how close you are to John Rice Plumlee? Do you think this is John Rice Plumlee's burner account here?
Says that if John Rice Plumlee would have it a little bit more different than John Rye.
You never know. Yeah, but that's the, hide in plain sight. It's the most obvious disguise here. If Kupp plays tonight, Steelers are not getting him. I'll say, I don't know. I mean, it depends. If Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford go off against one of the NFL's best in the Minnesota Vikings, yeah, like there are reasons for the Rams to look at this and say, we're not giving up just yet. If they lose and they lose convincingly, or even if they win and they barely scrape by, and this just looks like, yeah, you got lucky in this one, but you're not going to get lucky all the time. I think it makes the Steelers an even bigger favorite to go out and make a trade here and land Cooper Kupp. I don't know. It all depends on the scoreboard tomorrow morning and what it says and how good Cooper Kupp is. I don't expect him to play a full game. I think they'll judge it by the character of the game and how it's going. If they're losing big fast, if this is bad early, you're not keeping Cooper Kupp out there. You're not risking him getting hurt so that you can't trade him and then you just lost an asset and now you don't know what to do because you're already looking next season and the guy that you were going to trade to help look for next season just got hurt. So I could see him being limited in snaps depending on how this one goes down. All right. With that said, we'll shift away from wide receivers and then back to wide receivers because my first bold prediction here is about a wide receiver. We'll jump into bold predictions. We did this last week. I had a blast with it. And I mean, look at everybody, 2 weeks ago, and I had a blast with it. And everybody called these too bold. And then half of them came true, or at least very close to true. And, I'm going to tip my hand in this one this week too. And for those of you who are looking at the DraftKings Sportsbook app and saying, man, where do I get crazy real fast? This is some good ones here to just take some big shots on moving forward. I got 3 for you. I'll read them all off and then I'll get your thoughts on all 3 of these. We'll start with a banger here and a simple banger, simple. Oh yeah, that's crazy, but not the direction that everybody thought it was going to go. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to throw the football like they haven't thrown the football all season. I think everybody can guess that one. That's not a bold prediction. Russell Wilson, the Giants are a terrible football team. Their defense is atrocious and it's banged up and the secondary's hurt. They just lost another cornerback this past weekend. I mean, Thibodeau's on IR. It's just not looking good. It's really not looking good for the New York Giants. And you could say this is a sleeper game. It might be. I've had that thought all week long. But it could be the other way around, and this could be an absolute blowout, and the Pittsburgh Steelers looking way too good for back-to-back games, and they're home. And this is what happens. The Steelers always play best during their second back-to-back home game. It's very rare, and I know everybody's going to toss out the New England Patriots and the Arizona Cardinals a couple of years ago. That's such a rare occurrence with Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm saying they're going to pass the football like they haven't passed the football all year long. And who's going to benefit most from that? Well, it's not going to be George Pickens. It's going to be 19, the man, the myth, the guy we've been talking about with the connection to Russell Wilson since the beginning of the summer, and that is Mr. Calvin Austin himself. My bold prediction is that Calvin Austin leads the Pittsburgh Steelers in receiving yards in this one for a second game this season, goes over 100 and sets a new career high for himself against the Giants in week 8. I got Calvin Austin just taking over. And it just feels like a Calvin Austin game. George Pickens is going to get attention. The Giants are going to be overdoing their coverage, overprotective of their coverage to George Pickens to make sure he does not do to them what he did to the Jets. And Calvin Austin's just going to be sitting there going, I'm open. You can throw me the football now. And you guess what? The quarterback is going to be able to throw him the football in a timely manner. I'm saying Calvin Austin goes off in this one, leads the Pittsburgh Steelers, and sets a new career high for himself in week 8 against the Giants. But we're not there. And that, if we're going to be very honest, that is my least crazy bold prediction of this 3. My next one, we're sticking on the offensive side of the football. We're going on the ground, though. This is different. Najee Harris is back-to-back 100-yard games. Cordell Patterson might be back on Monday night against the Giants after spending some weeks on IR with an ankle injury. Jaylen Warren back, ready to go, making noise, running the football well, pass protecting well, catching the football out of the backfield. But you want to know who's going to break off and have at least one big run in this one and finish the game with over 50 rushing yards against the New York Giants? That is going to be number 2 himself and QB2 himself.
Oh, okay.
Justin Fields. I'm saying Justin Fields finishes this game, week 8 against the Giants, with over 50 rushing yards. That could come on 1, that could come on 2, that could come on 5. I have no idea. But this is the week that the Pittsburgh Steelers go, yeah, we got Justin Fields. And remember when we said we were still going to use him? We are. We're still going to use them. This is an opportunity for them to test it out against a bad defense and see if it works. And I think it's gonna. Justin Fields goes over 50 yards. I'm feeling real good about that one, actually. Real good. It's not my boldest, though. It's not my boldest of the bold predictions. You want to know what is? We're going to the defensive side of the ball. And I'm excited to see your reaction on this one. We played this guy down for way too long. And we talked about how, he's an undrafted rookie. He's not really playing that well. Then he comes up with a great game. And him alongside Van Jefferson make me probably ruin my wife's birthday by shaving a mustache tomorrow. Most likely, depending on if she's really going to kill me or not. Either way, it'll be there on Monday. This week, it continues. I'm saying Beanie Bishop goes back-to-back weeks with an interception, and I'll add to it. If there are more than one person, if there is more than one person on the Pittsburgh Steelers who comes up with an interception this week, Beanie Bishop gets 2 and leads the team once again. You want to know why? Because Daniel Jones is not that good. And he's tough. He's a tough son of a bitch. But he is not that good. And he is going to make mistakes. But he's not going to go throw it to Joey Porter Jr. He's got nobody on the other side of Malik Neighbors that he's looking to throw to. So he's going to look at the slot. And who's in the slot? Darius Slayton. And guess who's going to be covering him? Beanie Bishop. He's going to say, that's an undrafted rookie. I'm throwing it right there, pal. And Beanie Bishop's going to come up with 1. Maybe he's going to come up with 2. But this is another week of Beanie Bishop. I'm going Calvin Austin leads this team in receiving yards and sets a career high. Justin Fields 50 plus rushing yards in this one. And Beanie Bishop leads the team in interceptions. Whether that's 1, whether that's 2, we'll find out. But he leads the team in interceptions once again in week 8. Those are my 3 bold predictions. And to be honest, the last time we did this, I was a little skeptical about myself. This time, much less skeptical. I'm feeling good about him. I'll ask you, how bold?
I'm glad you're feeling confident, especially in that second one, because I understand. I mean, Justin Fields has played in 6 games this year? 3 of those 6 games, he's gone over 50 yards, but he was also QB1 in all 6 of those games. So if he goes over 50, I think it's going to have to be based on a breakout run where he goes 30, 35 yards, maybe more. So I think that one is very, very bold. I will say that, if we're labeling the most bold to least, I think it's more likely, and we're going to get to that segment in a minute. I think it's more likely that Beanie Bishop goes out there and throws up 2 interceptions for a second consecutive week than we see Justin Fields get over 50 rushing yards. That's what I feel about that one. Yeah. Ooh. And as far as Calvin Austin, I will say we're going to have one less what's more likely, because that was part of one of the what's more likelies. It was, will Calvin Austin have another 100-yard game this season, or will Roman Wilson have 2 50-yard games? So the news of the day and your bold prediction has taken out one of my what's more likelies.
I'll answer that. What's more likely at 50 yard? We're talking the rest of the season, two 50-yard games the rest of the season. I mean, Calvin Austin is the easy answer there. And I'll even juice that up. I think Calvin Austin has 2. I think Calvin Austin finishes the season with more 100-yard games than Roman Wilson does 50-yard games. I could probably say I think Calvin Austin finishes the season with more 100-yard games than Roman Wilson does 30-yard games. That's where Roman Wilson is. And it's not, I mean, I like Roman. I've been a big Roman supporter this entire time. I'm very much so rooting for the kid. He just doesn't seem to be in the plans right now, and those plans seem to be slipping. So I'll go Calvin on that one. I'm telling you, wait till you'll be the first person. You'll be the first person that gets the text on Monday night when Justin rips off a 48-yard run and then lines back up and gets 3 more yards. And I go, there it is, 51, pal, 51. 51. I'm feeling good about all 3 of them. It makes me more excited for the what's more likely. And that's where we're headed next. We're going to dive into Thursday segment of what's more likely, and we're going to answer all of your questions. But first, we got a quick word from our boys over at DraftKings. There's this chill in the air. The leaves are hitting the ground, and football is every single weekend. And that, my friends, is what fall is all about. You can make each weekend even more exciting by getting into the action with our partners, DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. And right now, all new customers who bet there's this chill in the air. The leaves are hitting the ground, and football is every single weekend. And that, my friends, is what fall is all about. You can make each weekend even more exciting by getting into the action with our partners, DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. And right now, all new customers who bet $5 instantly get $200 in bonus bets. Just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up using my promo code ALLSteelers, and guess what? The crown is yours. That's $200 in bonus bets instantly. You could stay in on the action and use that $200 in bonus bets to bet anytime touchdowns on DraftKings, because DraftKings is the place to bet touchdowns. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You could still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers who use my promo code ALLSteelers and bet just $5 on any wager get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code ALLSteelers only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Shout out our boys over at DraftKings. I apologize to everybody. I was using AirPods. It took me like 5 minutes to say AirPods suck, and I'm just not a fan of them. My glasses keep falling down. That's the biggest thing here is my glasses just the whole time. I'm like, these bad boys are strapped to the ears now, so we're good to go. So I apologize to that one. I'm sure DraftKings will enjoy that. I messed up their ad read, but it's all right. I use their sportsbook enough that I think we make up for it. With that said, Nick, I'm going to toss it to you. Week 8's edition of What's More Likely. I'm excited because we've had bangers and overreactions. We've had a great power rankings on Wednesday. Now it's overreaction Thursday, but not overreaction Thursday. What's More Likely Thursday. I'm excited to see what we got. I'm going to send it your way. I'm take a sip of my Ghost energy drink, Swedish fish flavored, because, you know, I like the grossest, sweetest things you could possibly toss my way, which is wild because you'll catch me either drinking one of these or black coffee. So it's one or the other. I'll toss it to you. What, God?
I was going to say the Swedish fish. I didn't even know that they would make that a flavor of energy drink, but now that I do, I'll know to avoid it. It's
delicious. It does taste like Swedish fish, but your teeth hurt a little bit at the end of it. So
I would assume so. Assume so. But let's get into what's more likely. Starting off hot with this one. What is more likely, Noah? Cooper Kupp is traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers, or Justin Fields starts another game this season?
Oh, that's a good one. You started off with a bang. I'll give you that one. You started off with this is red hot. This is a red hot start to this what's more likely. You have to go what's more likely Cooper Kupp where we stand right now, right? I mean, the trade rumors are hot. The Rams season is pretty much over, very close to over, if it's not already over. The Steelers are actively pursuing Cooper Kupp. So you have to believe that they are at least going to try. They're going to see what they can do here, see if they can figure this out. Justin Fields, I mean, the only way he's getting back in there right now is if Russell Wilson goes down with an injury, which is possible. Don't get me wrong. It's definitely possible. But you got to feel more likely about Cooper Kupp, right? You have to feel more likely about the Steelers making a wide receiver trade than changing quarterbacks once again right now where we stand. And the leader of that wide receiver topic, that conversation, is Cooper Kupp. So you got to go Cooper Kupp. Right now, I'm going Cooper Kupp. That one's crazy because chances of either of those happening are not very high. But Cooper Kupp, which seems like a crazy long shot, is probably much less long than the Steelers making another quarterback change. And I'm going Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, I think I would go there too, especially in a week where Russell Wilson did what he did last weekend. I think everybody's leaning more towards Cooper Kupp, especially because there's an end date on that one. The end date on that one is November 5th. So we only have about 2 weeks until we actually get the answer of yes or no on that one. Whereas as far as Justin Fields is concerned, we got 2 months to see if that ends up being the case. So I like it. I like your thought process there. Let's go over to the next one. What's more likely? The Steelers offense scores 30+ points for the third consecutive week, or the defense collects more than 4 sacks on the New York Giants.
Can I go both on this? Can both be an answer on this? What's more, I mean, if I had to take a guess of what's going to happen on Monday night, the Pittsburgh Steelers go 3 games over 30 points, and that's the talking point on Tuesday. Everybody's losing their minds about our overreaction. One of them is something along the lines of the Steelers have the best offense in football, something crazy like that. And TJ Watt might collect 4 sacks himself. He's going up against nobody. There's no Andrew Thomas is out. The Steelers are facing an offensive line that has nothing left to give. So you got to imagine 4 sacks are going to happen. I mean, easy. You got to imagine 4 sacks are going to happen easy, but you also have to, like, 30 points seems easy right now. 30. If it was 32 again, or if it was just 30 for the Steelers last week, you'd say like, okay, 4 sacks. You don't know if they're going to do that. 37 points. That's a lot of points. Like you are well north of 30. You're looking 40 at that point. You know, you get a little bit more time on that clock or something. That's a 40-point football game. Beanie Bishop scores that touchdown and you add a couple more seconds onto that clock. Who knows? Who knows how the game turns out? Maybe you score 40. I'm going to pick between them because I don't feel right saying both. But I would go both. I'm gonna go what's more likely, the 4 sacks, because I mean it's a guaranteed 4 sacks. I feel it's not a guaranteed 30 points. It's a guaranteed 4 sacks. I don't know what Daniel Jones' sack numbers are, but I have a hard time believing he's been sacked less than 4 times in a game this season.
I think the average right now is 3.7.
Yeah, so, that's pretty much. That means 3 point. That means he's been sacked 4 or more times in every game, but one of them, and that one was like 1 sack, probably against nobody. So that's what happened there.
Yeah, I like the thought, and also TJ Watt's coming off a game where he had 1 tackle. Yep. He's not going to be happy, especially because his overall sack numbers are low. If they don't chip him like everybody has already chipped him, he's going to take over the game, and if they don't. This is Alex Highsmith, week 2, coming back from injury. So I feel like it could get pretty dangerous for Daniel Jones in the Giants backfield. But let's go over to what's more likely. Minkah Fitzpatrick gets his first interception of 2024, or any of the front 7 get their first instead.
Any of the front 7. So we're going Peyton Wilson,
Patrick Queen, who's I think dropped 2 already this year.
Yeah.
You said Cam Hayward could get one earlier this week, so I think that throws a little bit of a wrench into this one.
He could. It's just a bigger quantity. Like there's a bigger surface here. Surface area to cover. I'm going front 7. And I hate that I'm doing this. I hate that I'm going front 7. But Minkah just doesn't get his hands on the football like that anymore. And I mean, look at Minkah's a phenomenal football player. He's an all-pro. He's one of the best safeties in the NFL, hands down, no questions asked. but he just doesn't get the hands on the football like he used to. And I don't know if that's just offense is completely eliminating him from the ball game. I don't know if it's because he's not supposed to play near the football and the Steelers just don't want him to play near the football because they understand that he could take away half the field and that means that the offense won't go there, which is smart. I don't know. What I do know is that TJ Watt comes up with interceptions. Alex Highsmith comes up with interceptions. Cam Hayward's got an interception on Daniel Jones. Patrick Queen's dropped 2 of them. Peyton Wilson's due for something. Even a Landon Roberts. Like there are a lot of bodies there that could come up with an interception. I'm going to go front 7. I mean, it's Daniel Jones would be nuts in a game like this to throw one deep up against Minka. But I mean, he'd also be nuts to throw it right at TJ Watt's face. And there's a chance he's going to do that. So I'm going front 7. I'm going what's more likely front 7 comes up with an interception.
All righty, let's go to the final what's more likely of the day. Russell Wilson throws for over 350 yards or Najee Harris runs for over 125.
Oh, this is a tough one. 350 yards is a lot of yards. It's a lot. It's a lot of passing yards. It's a lot of passing yards.
Najee has only ran for over 125 once, and that's his career high of 188 against Cleveland back in 2022.
He's only rushed for 125 yards one time in his career, in his entire career.
His entire career, he had 188 against Cleveland, and then he has 2 games where he had 122, but no other ones over 125.
Look, I'm born and raised in a little Italian home in a little Italian town, and my grandma told me my entire life it all comes in threes. Everything comes in threes. So you got to think Najee Harris for 100-yard rushing games are coming in threes here. If I had to guess, that means 125. I just think that you just don't have the bodies to come up with 350 passing yards. That means George Pickens has to have over 100. Calvin Austin's probably going to have over 100. You got to at least have 2 guys over 100 receiving yards to come up with 350. That's just, if Aaron Rodgers, I felt like passed for 7 billion yards last week. It was 274. That's 75 more yards. That's so many. I'm going Najee 125. That's crazy because I mean, the stat there that he's only done that once really limits your thought and really pulls you back for a second because you would imagine he's done this before.
Yeah.
Just once is nuts. I mean, I don't know. Maybe just doesn't get those last 20 yards ever. Maybe he always just hits 100 and the Steelers are just like, yeah, we're good, man. You're good. You got 100. We'll move it on. I'm going to go 125. It might be close, but I'm going to go 125.
All right, we actually got one listener submission here from Carl Spackler who says, what's more likely, Russell Wilson gets a Super Bowl in Pittsburgh or Baker Mayfield gets one in Tampa Bay?
Oh, I mean, you probably have a bigger shot for Baker to get one in Tampa Bay than Pittsburgh does, or than Russ does Pittsburgh because Baker's going to spend more time there. But the Bucs are 2 wide receivers away from a rebuild, and you got to figure out your wide receiver game again, and both of them are hurt. So chances are they're not pulling it off this year. I mean, I might be talking way too soon here. Way too soon. But what's to say Russ isn't a Super Bowl contender right now? What's stopping that thought? I don't think much. The fact that he's only played 1 game, I get it. The fact that it's the New York Jets, I get it. I get it all. But what's to say that he's not a Super Bowl contender right now, and he's certainly a Super Bowl contender over Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers? I'm going to go Russell Wilson. I don't like that answer. I don't like, because that means he's got to pull it off this season. But if you're going to ask me, is it more likely that Russ wins a Super Bowl this year or Baker wins one in Tampa Bay? You got to go Russell Wilson. There's just, there are a lot of quarterbacks that retire without a Super Bowl, a ton. And that is most retire without a Super Bowl. And there's a reason for that. A really good quarterback doesn't always win a Super Bowl for you. You got to have a great team. And I just don't know if Baker's a Super Bowl guy on a Super Bowl team right now. I would go Russ. And on top of that, chances are if Baker makes it to the Super Bowl and Russ is not there playing him, he's playing Kansas City. And I'm putting my odds on Kansas City every single time in that matchup. At least the Steelers have a shot to move past it and to avoid that.
All right, that's a wrap for what's more likely for today. We're going to jump into questions right away. Let's go first and foremost. Cody Silva says, you should try the Orange Ghost. It's fire.
Oh, the Orange Ghost is good. The Orange Creamsicle. I'm a big Ghost guy. They don't work that well. Like Alani's get me shaken by the end of this. I'm like, really? I mean, you could ask Nick every time we get off here. I'm just like, oh, I'm feeling all jittery and stuff. The Ghost, I could chug this thing. Doesn't do anything for me, but it just mentally keeps me going. I'm the type of guy right now that I'm like driving. It's not safe. I shouldn't be saying this out loud, but I told my wife, and if I tell my wife, I could tell you guys. I like come home from the facility, and as I'm coming through traffic, I'm like taking naps at red lights for a minute or two just to rest up, waiting for the energy drink in the fridge. So the orange one is fire.
Let's go over to Chris, who says, Noah, the Steelers let most of their players who are hurt sit and recover, and yet Broderick Jones has had to play hurt. Why not trade for a left tackle while Jones tries to recover?
I don't think Broderick Jones is as hurt right now or still hurt definitely compared to where he was. I get where you're coming from. But I thought at the beginning of the season, it made sense when you had Troy Fautanu. Now you don't have Troy Fautanu. Like, there are two sides here. One, who are you going to trade for? I don't know. You're going to have to go get a backup and hope he's good enough to be a starter and learn your offense and mesh with the offensive line. It's not good. All offensive lines have a weak link. The Steelers right now is Broderick Jones. And I mean, that's terrible, but it's survivable. You could live through this. I just don't think you could trade and get somebody that's worth the trade compensation and trust that they'd merge into this offensive line quickly enough to be a factor and to actually benefit things.
Let's go over to Cody Silva, who says, TJ Watt hasn't had a playoff win in his career. Make that splash trade for Kupp. We will deal with the future pick later. Let's get the boys what they deserve. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. If you're hunting for a Super Bowl, we made this statement about Terrell Edmonds. If you're hunting for a Super Bowl, you go out and get guys just to have good guys. If you're going to do that with Terrell Edmonds, go do that with a wide receiver. Like, if the goal is Super Bowl, if you benched your quarterback of the future for your quarterback now because of a Super Bowl, go get the wide receiver to win a Super Bowl. Now, there are logistics behind this that have to come into play that make things difficult. And I don't think Omar Khan's sitting around being stingy. I really don't. I just think that it hasn't worked out in his favor yet. DeAndre Hopkins surprised me because why would you not go get him for a 5th round pick and give up most of his salary? Doesn't make any sense to me. But now you have Cooper Kupp. And maybe that was it. Maybe the Steelers knew Cooper Kupp was available and said, I don't care about DeAndre Hopkins. I want Cooper Kupp, which makes a lot of sense. If that's the case, cool. But I agree. You got to go get him. If you are a Super Bowl contender, you go make a move to put yourself over the edge. The Chiefs did it. You have to follow suit. It's the only way you'll survive.
All right, let's jump over to Demetrius, who says, if Kupp gets held out tonight, the trade definitely happens.
It definitely happens. I could see the trade going down, and this is all speculation. This is all guess. I could see the trade going down tomorrow morning, super early, like as soon as we wake up. And I could, like, DeAndre Hopkins happened at like 6:30 in the morning. I could see that happening. Or I could see it happening Saturday because the Steelers are still in the building and the Rams are back home and everything's accustomed and they're just, settling down, working through their weekend, and moves and phone calls will be made. I could see both of those days happening if the Rams lose tonight and if Kupp does not play.
Let's jump over to Vibin' with the Dogs, who says, hey, Noah and Nick, sorry it's been a minute. Glad the boys won Sunday. How about converting Fields to wide receiver and putting him on the field? Russ to Justin would be dope.
It would be. And what's cool is, you could go back to Cordell Stewart days when he was flash, man. When he was the dude out, when he was a wide receiver, when he was catching passes and just a playmaker, an athlete, he was the most beloved guy in Pittsburgh. People loved that guy. He became Cordell Stewart, the quarterback. Nobody really liked him. Everybody complained, except for the one season. Everybody complained. So I think it would be crazy. I don't think Justin wants to become it. And I think Justin has played himself into an opportunity next season, whether that's in Pittsburgh or somewhere else, to where he'll get another shot as a starting quarterback in the NFL. And I hope he takes advantage of it and gets to really make something of himself as a starter because he's got the potential to be it.
If somebody outside of Tom Arth is able to get their hands on Justin Fields, it's going to be Danny Smith in that kick return game.
That would
Just
be
saying.
so awesome.
If anything,
so awesome.
If anything, we saw it on the Madden commercial. So
my only worry there is like if you put him back there to take a kick, like Calvin Austin looks like he just died every time he gets tackled on the kick returns. Like Justin might actually die. Yeah. I'd just be a little bit too nervous.
Let's jump over to Jacob Soto, who says, "Hey, Noah and Nick, what do you anticipate Najee's value being at the end of his current contract with the Steelers?"
Somewhere around $10 million a year, $12 million a year, somewhere. Alvin Kamara just signed a 2-year, $24 million deal. I could see Najee Harris being somewhere in that ballpark. 2 years, 24, 3 years, 36. I would say 10 million is like the baseline in my eyes. Depending on where he goes. He could go somewhere for less, for $8-9 million. And chances are that place is the 49ers or the Chargers, somewhere where he fits the system really well and he has a shot to compete. The Kansas City Chiefs would be a really good one. Just somewhere where he knows it's worth it. He could go win a Super Bowl. I think that's a possibility. But I would say anywhere from like 10 to $12 million is where he ranges right now. It could change drastically by the end of the season.
We got a couple questions from Jason. Let's start with this one. Listen to you guys daily. Appreciate you as always. Says, how confident are we that Russ can go toe-to-toe with the rest of the AFC quarterbacks we face down the stretch run?
I mean, Russ, I believe, is 2-0 against Patrick Mahomes. And that ain't bad. That ain't bad. I think Russ can compete with Lamar Jackson. I believe Russ can compete with Josh Allen. I think Russ can compete with CJ Stroud. It's Patrick Mahomes. And really, it's Andy Reid. It's can you beat the Chiefs? And that's it. That's the AFC right now. Can you beat the Chiefs? They are 6-0. People want to sleep on them still. Like, people talk like, oh, we're talking too much. I get it all the time. I get people sliding in my DMs on the daily telling me, why are we still talking like the Chiefs are a powerhouse? Because they're 6-0.
Yeah.
Because they have not lost a game and they just beat the team that they beat in the Super Bowl. That's why. It's still the Chiefs or bust for everybody. So I think the rest of them he can beat. I think the rest of them he can compete with. My biggest worry remains the Kansas City Chiefs. But beat them in Denver. So maybe he beats them in Pittsburgh. Who knows? Maybe he's got their number, and that's why the Steelers wanted him.
I do agree with you, but I will say Russell Wilson is 1-2 as a starter against Patrick Mahomes in his career.
His last one was a win.
But he is on a 1-game winning streak against Patrick Mahomes.
He is 1-0 most recently against Patrick Mahomes. Yes.
All right, let's go over to Jason's second question here. Over or under AFC Championship for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year?
You got it. If you're going to play it safe, you're going to go the under just because you don't know. If you're going to get ballsy, you go the under or you go the over. You definitely go the over. I would say that's the benchmark for the Steelers right now is if you make it to the divisional game, like great, cool, but like, did you really accomplish anything? No, you won one playoff game. Big whoop. Doesn't change anything at all. I think what would be equally as disappointing for Steelers fans, maybe more disappointing for Steelers fans this year, is if they won a playoff game against like a bad team and then played a good team in the divisional round and got smoked. Like, you lose bad in the divisional round. Like, that sucks. You make it to the AFC Championship. It doesn't matter what happened. You made it to the AFC Championship. If you lose by 14 to the Chiefs, you made it to the AFC Championship game. The Chiefs are still it. The Chiefs are the Super Bowl favorites, whatever. If you go to the AFC Championship game, you lose by 14 to the Bills, different story. But I think you could get there. You really set yourself up for, like, we're back. Steelers are a contender again.
Let's go over to Paranormal, who says, good to see you guys as always. My question is, why would the Rams risk an injury by playing Cooper Kupp at all tonight if he might be traded?
I think somebody put it in the chat earlier. The Rams are only a game out of first in their division. They're a team that they might not be good, but they still have Matthew Stafford. They still have Sean McVay. They still have Puka Nacua. They have a good running game. Like, they could try. They're not a team that's going to wave the white flag in week 8. So they'll give it a shot here. They'll see what happens. and then they'll go from there. If they are dead serious on trading Cooper Kupp, they won't give him much time. They'll put him out there just to show everybody he's healthy, and then they'll pull him before anything gets crazy and anything like that. Or they'll make him an inactive, and that will be a clear indication. Like, I forget who asked the question earlier, but like we got asked earlier, it'll be a clear indication that he is getting traded and getting traded very soon.
All right, let's jump over to Bert Butler, who says, I have a two-part question for you. How many other teams are in the running for Cooper Kupp, or are we just going to go slow play it and end up not getting a top wide receiver?
I don't know. I don't know if they're going to slow play it. I do know the Steelers really like Cooper Kupp, and they really want to get their hands on Cooper Kupp. I don't know how many other teams are in the running for Cooper. That's, my insider knowledge stalls at the Steelers, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. I know some stuff from some other teams, and, I can make some phone calls and find out, but it'd be tough for me to gauge interest on 32 teams. So I don't know, but you'd have to imagine the Saints are still looking for a wide receiver. You'd have to imagine who else is still out there looking for a wide receiver. Baltimore is looking for a wide receiver. You'd have to guess maybe the Lions now with Jameson Williams being suspended. All those teams, excuse me, I got the yawns the last 2 days. I would imagine there are at least 2 or 3 teams in on Cooper Kupp.
Let's go over to Paul, who says, hey guys, what's the difference between what happened to Calvin Austin with his injury and what's going on with Roman Wilson? I don't remember there being so much talk of Calvin Austin's Steelers time being over back then.
Yeah, no. Let's get something clear here.
Yeah.
Roman Wilson is not done with the Steelers. He is not over. His time in Pittsburgh is not going to end miserably. This is just simply, we might not get to watch him play as rookie. That's simply all it is. It is nothing past this season, and I still have massive expectations for Roman Wilson. Huge ones, actually. The difference is Calvin Austin's injury was season-ending, and you kind of knew it right from the jump. It was the Liz Frank. He suffered it the day before the preseason opener. He tried to come back from it week 7 or week 8, somewhere in there. Suffered a setback, had to get surgery. That was the end of it. The season was over. Romans are nagging injuries that pop up and then they linger for a while, and now you have to overcome it and get back on the field. So the difference in conversation is there was no conversation to have about Calvin Austin because he was on IR. There's a conversation to have about Roman because you're just kind of waiting of, is he going to be injured all season? Okay, he's healthy. Cool. He's getting there. This is exciting. Maybe you get to see him. Oh, another injury happened. Now it's a setback. Now we're back to ground zero. So it's different injuries, which are causing different timelines for return. But by no means is Roman done in Pittsburgh, and is this going to end miserably?
Let's go over to It's DZ, who says, hey guys, just wanted to show some love from Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. Says, what do you think about starting Calvin Austin in my fantasy team this week?
I'm going to give you my little sticky note here that says Calvin Austin over George Pickens for at least 150 receiving yards. I would say yes. I'd say take the chance on it, man. If you're in a good spot, don't start him over George Pickens. Don't start him over Saquon Barkley or Terry McLaurin, or maybe Terry McLaurin might be a good one this week because Marcus Mariota is probably going to start at quarterback. But still, I mean, he put up points last week. I only know that because he's on my fantasy team. I would say if you're willing to take the risk and you have room for the risk, take it because it might work out in your favor.
All righty, let's jump down to Vibing with the Dogs, who checks in once again, says, let's trade Fields for Kupp. Might as well get something for Fields instead of just losing them for nothing in free agency.
Yeah. I mean, hypothetically, it works out really well. It doesn't work out when Russ goes down, and then you're like, oh, man, all right. And especially could you imagine if it happened right before the playoffs? You lose your quarterback, and now you're heading into the excitement is finally here, and then Kyle Allen's leading you into Buffalo. Could you just? It's not what you want to be. It's not where you want to be, unless they're sending Matthew Stafford back the other way around. I would say no to trading Fields for Cooper Kupp, but I like the thought. I do like the thought.
Let's jump over to the Fields is for the Pickens, who says Mike T, Coach of the Year. Is that an overreaction?
It is not an overreaction, and I'm also pretty positive the Fields is for the Pickens is who mentioned whatever I mentioned earlier. My brain's going blank right now on that one, but I said somebody made a comment. I'm pretty sure it was the Fields is for the picking. So shout out Mike T over the. I think I mean, if the Steelers turn out to be dominant and really good, and they win the AFC North, and they are on the verge of being a playoff run team, all of that whole nine. Yeah, you have to. You have to. Mike T's deserved coach of the year for so long and has. I mean, Kevin Stefanski has won coach of the year twice, 2 times. Mike Tomlin has done crazy things with almost nothing time and time again, and has just been ignored time and time again. So, I mean, I would say yes. That for some reason the awards people don't like Mike Tomlin when it comes to this, but I would say yes, and I would pound that drum definitely.
Let's go to Carson, who says, hey, Noah and Nick, hope you guys are doing well. I know you've answered this before, but what receiver would you want on the roster? And then also says, thanks for what you guys do.
Hey, appreciate you. Definitely appreciate you. On for any team, anywhere, could we just add anybody? Or are we going to go, we'll give you a crazy one, and then I'll give you the realistic one. The realistic one is Cooper Kupp. I mean, that's of all the guys available, Cooper Kupp just makes the most sense. He fits into the offense the best. He makes you a Super Bowl contender, the whole nine. Everything great comes with Cooper Kupp. When it comes to every receiver on every team, no matter who you are, Tyreek Hill, why not? Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson.
I was going to say, I'm going with Justin Jefferson over everybody.
Yeah,
if I could just pluck one from any other team, I'm taking Justin Jefferson.
I think everybody would. I think those would be my two of just like, yeah, screw it. Why not? They'll probably just work out everywhere. Jamar Chase would also be a really good one. He's a crisp route runner. He's undervalued as a route runner, in my opinion. So I would go those three, but Cooper Kupp's the realistic one out of everybody right now that could end up in Pittsburgh.
Let's go over to Marlon Lewis, who says, if they are 6-2 going into the bye, can we get that number 1 seed and have the AFC run through Acrisure?
Look at maybe, but 6-2 is still 2 games behind the Kansas City Chiefs. That's crazy to think about. So, I mean, potentially, but it's not. I don't think it has anything to do with the Steelers. They could win the rest of this year. It's about, can the Chiefs lose 2 games? We'll see. It would be cool to see Christmas Day Steelers Chiefs mean something as dramatic as who is the number 1 seed in the playoffs. It would be very cool to see that. But again, I don't know. I think it comes down to more of the Chiefs than the Steelers.
Let's go to the question everybody wants to know. Peter asks, Noah, is there beef between you and Mark Caboli?
I had to highlight this one because this is a going. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to let the world know yes. Massive beef between me and Kaboom. Massive. Everybody can tell him. Please tag him. Actually, everyone, please go tag. Every single person, please go tag on either Instagram, Facebook. I don't care where you find them. Mark Caboli, and just say, back off of Noah, please. Or just tell him back off. Just tell Caboli back off. Everybody could do that. I still want everybody to do that, but no, I love Kaboom, and he's a good dude. He's taught me a lot in this industry.
Let's go over to Eric Campbell, who says, is Cam Sutton allowed to practice with the team yet? Is he back after the bye? Daily listener and diehard Steelers fan from New Mexico.
Hey.
Said, thank you guys for being my number 1 podcast.
Hey, appreciate you. Hopefully it's warm over there, a little bit warmer than it is here. He is not allowed to practice yet. Can't practice until week 8. So next week he'll probably return for the bye week practice, and then he'll come back in week 9. He is back in the facility. He was allowed back in the facility in week 6. He's just doing stuff with trainers, working on his own, working in the weight room. He's probably allowed back in meetings, that kind of stuff, but he is not allowed on the practice field until week 8.
All right, let's go over to Alexander, who says, is Najee's biggest problem his inconsistency? 2 great games, but overall feels like an average season so far in running back terms.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd label it a problem. I don't know how inconsistent he is. I think the Steelers offense as a whole is inconsistent, and that's a problem. I would like to see Najee be a 100-yard runner every single week, but in those bad games, I'd like him to be closer to 100, or at least effective in other areas. And sometimes he is. Sometimes it's a game where he has a big receiving game. Sometimes it's a game where he's really good on the blocking side of things. I mean, I would say Najee's consistent in different ways, consistently. But I agree with you. I think up until the last 2 weeks, it was very average season for Najee Harris. Not the best. And you were looking for more. I mean, now he's getting it. Can that continue? I think we'll find out.
All righty, let's jump over to Robert, who says, "Hey, Nick and Noah, I see everybody's in need of a wide receiver. How much do both of you think we should push on the gas pedal and get something done?"
I would say hard. I would say very hard. If I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm not giving up the house. Like, I'm not giving up a first round pick or a second round pick for nobody and just trying to get somebody. And I'm not going to get Mike Williams just to go get Mike Williams. If you really think he can help you, great. But I'm not just going to go give whatever away for him. If it's a Cooper Kupp, if it's a guy that you know is going to make an impact and make a big one, then yes, I think you put the gas down and you say, let's go get him. But it depends on the name. It depends on the situation and the compensation. And if everything lines up well, yeah, you gun it. There's no need to be waiting around for a wide receiver.
All righty, let's go over to Sean LaRock, who says, "Do we see more of Scotty Miller this week with Roman playing, or without Roman playing, excuse me, and with 2 great draft picks? Does the Steelers leave McCollum, or do they put Frazier back once he's back from injury?"
No, Frazier's definitely going back once he's back from injury. That'll be after the bye week, though. He will not practice until sometime after the bye week. Maybe week 9, maybe week 10, but it'll be after the bye week. Scotty Miller, look, Roman hasn't played yet, and Scotty hasn't played. So Scotty's just a guy that you line up out there on downs that you are clearly going to run the football. You'll notice that this week. You'll notice it. You'll notice it this week.
Now that you know what for it.
Yeah, now every time Scotty Miller is out on the field, you'll go, oh, look at Scotty Miller, and then they'll run the football every single time. I don't think he'll play more, and when it comes to McCollum and Frazier, it'll still be Frazier once he comes back.
All righty.
Also, speaking of big guys, I spoke to Mason McCollum today about his first down celebration. Yeah. McCormick, excuse me, about his first down celebration. He said, dude, it was electric in there. I said, yeah. I was like, oh, you didn't have crowds like that in South Dakota State? He said, hell no, I didn't have crowds like that in South Dakota State. I was like, Monday night's going to be crazier. He's like, oh, that gets me fired up. And you could tell he was pumped up. I was loving it. So shout out Mason McCormick. He is a good dude, man. He is a good dude.
I'd call him the Energizer Bunny, but I know he's a Jackrabbit. So he's the Energizer Jackrabbit for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I love that. He's the man. He is the man.
Let's go over to Lifted Ones, who says, given that you're in the locker room with these guys, great little segue there. Does this team feel like a team compared to teams past? Like feel like a team, I think is the question. And also, how do you feel about the Fields packages?
I hope that there's some Fields packages. Again, my bold prediction is really banking on some Fields packages this week. When it comes to the feel of the locker room, it is drastically different than the last 3 years, and probably drastically different from the last 5 years. I mean, I was there during the COVID year when you started 11-0, and the vibes were good, but I was also on the outside looking in. Like, you couldn't be in the locker room. It was a different circumstance. This year compared to the last 3-4 years is very different, and it just seems calm. There's much more confidence. It doesn't seem like in years past, it felt like everybody's walking on eggshells. Like it was, the glass is thin. We don't know when it's going to break, but we have a feeling it's going to. Good seems okay, but not great. Now it's good seems great. I think Russell Wilson has a ton to do with that. I think Arthur Smith has a ton to do. Arthur Smith is a dude. Let me just explain this to you guys. Arthur Smith is, for 3 years, okay, it felt like there was no smiles. Like there were no smiles in Pittsburgh. Like there were no jokes on the sideline. Like everybody was just real strict business at all times. Things were hostile. I watch Arthur Smith joke around with these guys and laugh all day long. I watch guys just run up to him and hug him after a great play call. Like the vibes with Arthur Smith are so crazy good. If you're a Steelers fan, you don't want Arthur Smith to go anywhere else because this is just the beginning of him with these guys. You could tell. And then it comes to Russell Wilson and Justin Fields and having leadership at the quarterback position, something the Steelers have desperately needed. And now they have it. And that it's just keeping it all together. The vibes are excellent in Pittsburgh right now. Completely different than they've been the past 3 years.
Not to say they didn't have good personalities before, but I feel like adding guys like Deshaun Elliott, adding guys like Patrick Queen on top of guys like Landon Roberts already being in there, I think it just creates that environment. So from the outside looking in, it feels like that, which is probably why Lifted Ones asked the question, but it's nice to hear that from the inside, it's about the same thing.
Yeah, it's a good place to be. It's a good place to be.
We got 2 more to get to here. Let's go to Playtime Game Channel. It says Super Bowl with Cooper Kupp. Yes or no?
Super Bowl contender, certainly. Certainly. I think it's a bold prediction to say Super Bowl, but I would say Super Bowl contender for sure. Depends on if he's healthy. A lot of factors that factor into this. But I would say if healthy, why not? You know, what's holding you back? So I would say Super Bowl contender for sure.
I like it. And let's finish it off with Terry, who wants to know what time is the live stream since the game is on Monday night instead of Sunday.
Yeah, so we'll switch it up tomorrow. We'll hold off on our picks, and we'll actually pick the entire NFL slate for you guys. Shout out to DraftKings once again, and we'll go through a normal show with injury updates and so on and so forth to head into the weekend. And then on Monday, we will be back, and we will address the Steelers game Monday morning, 9 a.m., everything to look for, pretty much a preview, and then we will make our picks as we do usually on Fridays. We'll do it on Monday this time, but 9 a.m. is when the podcast will be on Monday, normal 9 a.m. time. That'll give everybody all day to circulate back, come back, whatever. And if you guys can't be there and you got questions, toss them in tomorrow. We'll make sure we answer as many as we can tomorrow before we head out to make sure that everything's clear and everything's settled down before game day.
All right. That's a wrap for today then.
Awesome. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. With that said, enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.